James Barry was more than just a name in the news. He was a man people in his town knew well, friendly, hardworking, and always ready to help. Born into an ordinary family, he grew up with strong values and dreams of building a better life. Friends described him as honest and loyal, someone you could trust without question. At work, James was steady and respected, often the one people turned to for advice. His life was not one of fame or riches, but of quiet dedication and care for those around him. Neighbors often saw him smiling, greeting everyone with kindness. Behind that smile, though, James carried struggles like anyone else. Bills to pay, family matters, and the daily weight of responsibility. Yet, he never let it show. To the outside world, James seemed like a man whose life was steady and secure. But in the shadows, forces were moving against him. The story of James Barry would soon shift from the life of a respected man to the center of a dark crime that shocked everyone who knew him. His death was not just the loss of a life, but the tearing apart of a community that had trusted and loved him. This is where the mystery begins. Who would want James Barry dead, and why? Before tragedy struck, James Barry lived a life that seemed ordinary on the surface, yet full of meaning to those who knew him. He had a small circle of close friends who often spoke about his warm nature and his willingness to listen when someone was in need. Family gatherings were important to him, and he never missed a chance to spend time with those he loved most. James was a man of routine. His mornings began with quiet walks, his days filled with steady work, and his evenings often spent at home. Though his lifestyle was simple, it carried a sense of peace. He was proud of the life he had built, even if it lacked luxury. Neighbors remember the sound of his laughter, often carried through open windows on summer nights. Yet, beneath that calm surface, James carried private struggles. Financial pressure, unresolved tensions, and silent worries weighed on him, though he kept them hidden. These stresses never defined him, but they painted the backdrop of his days. To many, he seemed content, even happy. But life is often more fragile than it appears. The details of his past, his relationships, his choices, and even his secrets would soon become key pieces in uncovering the truth of his shocking death. It was a night that began like any other for James Barry, but ended in horror that no one could have imagined. The air was still, the streets quiet, and the town settling into its usual calm. James followed his evening routine, leaving behind no sign that danger was near. Yet somewhere in the shadows, a plan was already in motion. The exact timeline remains a haunting mystery, but investigators later pieced together fragments of his final hours. At some point during the night, James was confronted. Whether by someone he knew or a stranger remains a chilling question. The struggle was brief but brutal, leaving behind marks of violence that told their own silent story. Neighbors would later recall hearing faint noises, but nothing that hinted at the tragedy unfolding so close to their doors. By morning, the calm town awoke to news that sent shock and fear through every home. James Barry had been murdered. The details were grim, but what struck people most was the sheer disbelief. How could such a kind and trusted man meet such a violent end? The night of his death marked not only the loss of a life, but the beginning of a dark investigation that would uncover secrets, lies, and betrayals hidden in plain sight. When police arrived at the scene, the home of James Barry was no longer a place of comfort. It had become a crime scene filled with silence and unanswered questions. The first clues were small, almost easy to miss, but to investigators they spoke volumes. A broken glass near the table suggested there had been a struggle. Marks on the floor hinted at a fight, sudden and desperate. Even more chilling were the personal items left untouched, as if the killer had come with one purpose only: to end James's life. Detectives noted how nothing of value was missing, ruling out robbery as the motive. Instead, the scene told a darker story. Friends and family were quickly questioned, their words carefully weighed against the evidence. Some described unusual tension in James's final days, while others admitted noticing strangers near his home. The most unsettling detail was the front door. It showed no sign of forced entry. Whoever had entered that night may have been someone James trusted enough to let inside. These early clues were like fragments of a puzzle, each piece raising more questions than answers. For the investigators, this was just the beginning of a long and painful search for the truth. With the first clues in hand, detectives launched a full investigation into the murder of James Barry. The quiet town quickly turned into a place of tension, as police combed through every detail of his life. Officers knocked on doors, interviewed neighbors, and searched the area for any sign of the killer's movements that night. Every call, every meeting, and every habit of James was studied with care. Forensic teams worked long hours, collecting fingerprints, analyzing blood traces, and reviewing any camera footage from nearby streets. The hunt was not only about finding evidence, but also about finding motive. who would gain from James's death. Rumors spread fast, and suspicion fell on several people close to him. The pressure was heavy, both on the investigators and the community, as fear grew that the killer could still be among them. The police built a timeline of James's final hours, narrowing down who had the chance to strike. Still, for every lead that seemed promising, another ended in a dead end. The hunt was relentless, pushing detectives deeper into a web of secrets that surrounded James's life. This was no random act of violence. It was clear the murder was planned, and the truth would not stay hidden forever. As the investigation deepened, hidden parts of James Barry's life slowly surfaced. Detectives uncovered personal struggles he had kept from friends and family, debts that weighed heavily on him, strained relationships, and quiet disputes that hinted at enemies closer than anyone imagined. What seemed like a simple life of routine now appeared far more complicated. Old messages revealed arguments that had grown bitter over time, and whispers of betrayal began to circle. Neighbors who once spoke of James with only praise now admitted noticing tense visitors, late-night talks, and sudden changes in his mood. Each discovery painted a picture of a man caught between trust and trouble. Police began to connect these secrets to possible motives: revenge, money, or anger rooted in the past. The calm image James had shown to the world was cracking, replaced by the truth of a man under pressure. For investigators, these revelations were not just shocking, they were vital. Every hidden detail pulled them closer to understanding why someone would kill him. Yet, with every secret revealed, the list of suspects grew longer. What had once seemed like an open and shut case now unfolded into a dark maze of lies waiting to be untangled. Secrets uncovered. Attention quickly turned to the people in James Barry's life. Police began questioning friends, family, and colleagues, looking for cracks in their stories. Some suspects stood out more than others. Those who had argued with James, those who owed him money, or those he had recently cut ties with. Each person was placed under the microscope, their alibis tested against the growing mountain of evidence. The pressure was intense, and under questioning, emotions ran high. Some broke down, insisting they were innocent, while others revealed bitter truths about their connection to James. Neighbors whispered about strange behavior and late-night visits, fueling even more suspicion. Detectives knew that the killer was likely someone close, someone who knew James well enough to enter his home without force. The circle grew tighter, and for every suspect cleared, another seemed to rise. The town felt the weight of suspicion too. Trust between neighbors began to crumble as everyone wondered who could have done it. The case was no longer just about one man's murder, it was about uncovering betrayal in a community that thought it knew its own. With suspects under fire, the truth was closer, but so was danger. Months of investigation, the case of James Barry finally reached the courtroom. The community, still shaken, watched closely as the trial began. The accused sat under the heavy gaze of the jury, while prosecutors laid out the evidence piece by piece. Photos from the crime scene, forensic reports, and witness testimonies built a chilling picture of the night James was killed. The defense, however, fought back hard, trying to cast doubt on every detail. Lawyers argued over timelines, questioned the reliability of witnesses, and suggested that someone else could be responsible. In the packed courtroom, emotions ran high. Family members wept quietly while reporters captured every moment. Each day revealed new layers of the story, from James's hidden troubles to the motives of those closest to him. The trial was not just about punishment, it was about giving a voice to a man whose life was taken too soon. For many, this was the final step toward closure. Yet, the outcome was uncertain until the very end. Would justice for James Barry be served, or would his murder remain a painful mystery? The verdict would decide more than guilt. It would define the town's faith in truth. The verdict was finally read, the weight of the trial lifted, but the scars of James Barry's murder remained. Justice, in the eyes of the court, had been served, yet no sentence could bring James back or erase the pain of his loss. For his family, the truth was both relief and sorrow. Relief that answers were found, sorrow that betrayal had come from so close. The community, once bound by trust, was forever changed. Neighbors now looked at each other with caution, knowing that evil had grown quietly in their midst. The story of James Barry became more than a case. It became a warning about the hidden battles people fight, and the darkness that can live behind familiar doors. In the weeks that followed, flowers and candles appeared outside his home, small signs of love from those who mourned him. Yet life moved forward, leaving behind questions that could never be fully answered. Why James? Why then? And could it have been stopped? His name would live on, not only as the victim of a shocking crime, but as a reminder that truth, though painful, must always come to light. This was the lasting shadow of James Barry's story.